Read on Reddit. Baby Yoda and the Dark Crystal prove that we still need puppetry in the age of CGI.
KN05 is 17H. We even have better tech to get some amazing animatronic movements. There's so much potential for practical effects. Cheffer 8916H still sad about how much better The Thing 2011 could have been if they went with animatronics instead. K36916H Now I really want a Dead Space movie. White Wolf off Utah 16H They have one. It's called Event Horizon S. Argento Cat 15H Fun fact. Most of those effects were complete and filmed. The studio forced them to cover the effects with CGI because it's what audiences would want. Quotation mark. Mediocre Bandito 15H One of my favorite parts of Disney parks are the animatronics and trying to imagine the practical physics that goes into their motions. They can do some crazy stuff these days. Terrace Parks 15H like this. CJN 1316H I actually really like the simple movements of Baby Yoda. They make him even more endearing. Kuhl 714H Baby Yoda reaction shots are 100% pure gold every time. And it's a puppet. Midlebird 16H Use puppets and other practical effects, and sprinkle in CGI where needed. Creighton 7416H CGI enhanced practical effects. Astrakhan 4217H Werner Herzog agrees. Fresh Ninja Times 16H I would like to see the baby. CJN 1316H We will all be quiet. Tra 5 Olo 16H Low key one of the funniest lines in the show. Buimatoy 16H Leave it cowards. And agreeing Dothraki 15H The difference between a good actor and a legend is being able to see what will work around you and not just for your role. Herzog, according to Herzog, actually went to the producers to make sure Baby Yoda was a puppet. He knew a physical object is easier to act around as well as having the audience forgive its flaws and identify with more. This is the way. Shadow Cloudrift 14H This is the way. It helps a lot for actors having something physical. Also the new backgrounds they use instead of standard green screens help too. Philongrade 16H The Dark Crystal employed our boy Barnaby Dixon, and that's really all that needs to be said about the future of puppetry. Modern Man 14H I recognized his puppetry instantly. I felt like a huge dork being able to identify a puppeteer from seeing his puppetry, but the man is iconic. Weird Bunny 17H The Dark Crystal was such a good show. I really want to see a second season. It was such an enchanting world. Giotto Keen 17H As good as The Dark Crystal Age of Resistance was, a second season to connect the show to the 80s movie would need to be really dark, as almost all the characters from the show need to die to get the plot to where it is at the beginning of the movie. Corey 12016H I personally think they'll end up going the route of having some gelflings successfully go into hiding, and Jen and Kira are just totally unaware as is everyone else in the movie. Maybe not, but it's the only way I can think of to avoid what would be one of the darkest endings ever. Radically the King of Queens 16H Why not have one of the darkest endings ever? Doesn't mean it would be bad. Could be the opposite actually. One of my favorite endings of a TV show was Dinosaurs Where spoiler. Mvalis 107316H The producers already said that the show is going to end on a more optimistic note than you might think. So the theory of some going into hiding in the end will probably happen. Still, that does mean a Gartham rampage will happen regardless. P. McKnight-Ritter 16H and the movie Cats. Not puppeteers in that movie, but just good old-fashioned makeup artist FFS. Jed Hampton Psych 16H Why didn't they just work with the costume styles from the stage show? The film would offer different opportunities with the outfit designs and some CGI After Effects can help. But we got Beautiful and Happy 16H Honestly, Cats is something that can only be successful as a play. It's flashy, unique, and it's a spectacle. Though when you make it into a movie, you have to dive into the plot, and the plot for Cats is awful. A movie for Cats was never going to work. Rikiri Kiparmparm 16H Apparently Hooper did a ton of close-up shots of the dancing, which kind of ruins the point of the choreography. Redditors have said that the CGI was limiting how much of the dancing they could show. Otherwise it looks like the cats are floating or something. So maybe a move to practical effects would take advantage of what actual strengths Cats has. Yellow Pudding 16H Not sure why you're downvoted. There are just some shows that can't be put to screen. Croatian Sensation 716H. I think if they would have went away from all the CGI and actually did full makeups with little CGI, it would have felt more like a tribute to the play, and I think people would have embraced it more for what it was. Greedo shot first 16H. I'm sure to a Hollywood executive it sounded brilliant on paper. ? Hey, you know how we've been printing money by turning comics and books into movies? Let's do the same with a hit Broadway play. The script is already written. We just need to hire a bunch of big names and animate them into cats. Paris Bright Hugger 16H. A bag of bad cats with no buttholes. Paris Bright Hugger 16H. How about a story? I've heard people like those. Roidsiraptor 16H. And who has a better story than cats? The Hectic Glow 14H. Cats the Cripple. Mika Pictor 16H. The stage show has no story. How much could we expect one in the movie? David 14H. I agree. And to follow up, the stage show was based on a book of poems, so there's really no story all the way back. Arthur Bia 15H. I think what people wanted was for someone to make an actual story out of the material. The music is strong. They could have made out of what they had. Would it have been better? Guess we'll never know. Street Bernardus 15H. This is propaganda from BIG Puppet. Atrides Cat 8H. No puppet. You're the puppet. Delicious Author 15H. Was Babu Frick a puppet or CGI? Cromulent Pseudonym 15H. Oh yeah, that dude. He's my oldest friend. King Grower Avatar The Last Airbender 14H. 100% a puppet. Muled Fox 13H. Babu Frick was awesome and totally a puppet. Delicious Author 13H. I thought so. Babu is the man. Great voice too. He reminded me of Kuato from the original Total Recall. 9 Guy 15H. This internet refrain is exhausting. CGI and puppetry are neither inherently good nor inherently bad. Bad CGI is bad. Bad puppetry is bad. There's a place for both, and it's more about studios making the correct choice for a given project and spending the right amount of time and money to get it right. Optimal Towel 15H. Yeah, there were some Baby Yoda shots where it obviously looked like a doll, mostly when people are picking it up or handling it, that I think would have looked more realistic if they used some CGI enhancement. Smegdog 15H. Every time he got picked up and was just this rigid sack of potatoes styrofoam, I got really distracted. Awfulita Fossilites 13H. He's just been doing planks in the pram of screen. Frogster 13H. Shit. I'm glad I'm not the only one who noticed, and who was bothered by it. Every time he was picked up I felt like I was watching an 8-year-old pick up a poorly swaddled plastic doll purchased at the local Dollar Tree. Mac 12H. Yep. They needed to add some weight to the prop. Subxel 15H. Exactly. People also need to understand that most of the love for the Mandalorian puppetry is due to how adorable and meme-worthy Baby Yoda is. It's not a particularly realistic-looking doll, but it sure is adorable. I still find it to be as immersion-breaking as some bad CGI. Mandalore 13138H. I thought the obviousness of Baby Yoda being a puppet really added to the charm and vibe of the show. 3Edfin 15H. I found that kind of endearing tbh. Freezing TNT 213H. Yeah, there were some Baby Yoda shots where it obviously looked like a doll. Don't forget Yoda in the original trilogy and in The Last Jedi. Nom Zombie 15H. It's especially dumb because they're using CGI enhanced puppetry to talk up puppetry and criticize CGI. Paranoidus 15H. And Dark Crystal is all puppets, so it's essentially a different medium like animation or claymation. This is like pointing out that people still like drawn animation even though we have full CGI movies and series. It's just a different art style. LXNCH 5015H. The new Netflix series Dark Crystal uses CGI enhanced puppetry. Give the documentary a watch. It was pretty informative. Mazik 15H. 100% agree. And the idea that either one is inherently good or bad leads to people not even realizing when quality versions are used, and irrationally saying it's always bad. CGI is ubiquitous in video production anymore. It's everywhere and you usually don't notice it. If it's done well, there are certainly good enough attempts that you know are off, but you can look past because of other qualities or budget constraints. There's also bad ones from cutting corners and not caring, but I would argue that most video watchers, even ones with a good eye for detail, don't recognize over half the CGI uses in their everyday media though. There's a behind-the-scenes subreddit, and I'm fascinated by how little set there is sometimes anymore for some things. Limonilil 14H. Definitely agree. If you spend a day looking for actual good CGI examples, part of the skill required in good CGI is making it blend in to the point where a scene you wouldn't even have considered has it. The most recent one that blew me away was in Logan where he walks past his clone. It wasn't just a separate shot, or anything like that. They CGI'd Hugh Jackman onto his stunt double. I didn't even consider that they would do that since that's not how doubles are usually done. But damn does it look good. Mr. Puppington 15H exactly. I was going to say the same thing. Both can be good or bad depending on how it's done. There are times where practical effects are preferred and there are times where CGI is preferred. Sirreddit 15H CGI has its place. When used correctly it can be indistinguishable from the reality. https://www.youtube.com watch v equals dvnyfj bxley. https://www.youtube.com watch v equals d4 ezer. Limonilil 14H thank you. It's not a shift from one to the other. CGI artists and puppeteers are entirely different schools. I'm glad that puppetry isn't becoming a lost art, because it's always entertaining to see, but there are things that CGI just does better, and half the time you don't even notice it. Cast F15H thank you for such a concise comment bubbling up to the top. I love Baby Yoda, but there are plenty of moments where all the life of him was lost when you could see his rigid hinged movements. Good CG characters are expensive. You get what you pay for. Anhupus 16H The Dark Crystal is a beautifully made show. The 4K shots, amazing set design and the artistry of the puppetry got me so intrigued that I thought I'd at least give it a shot. It's strange because I would not have watched this show if I didn't stumble onto it by accident. I've seen almost no talk of it online. Nobody I know watches it and I've seen no promotion for it at all. The Secret Me 16H it had major hype for a while. Love it or not, I consider the Dark Crystal series to be such an achievement that if Netflix were to fall over tomorrow, it would have all been worth it because the entire thing culminated into that one season of the Dark Crystal. Angry Demonoid 12H I've been meaning to watch this show, but haven't gotten around to it. I've also never seen the movie. Should I watch the movie first? 34TE10H Don't watch the movie first. The movie had aged pretty poorly and would probably not inspire you to watch the show. The show is a prequel, and is fantastic in both its production quality, storytelling, and star power. Once you see the show, the movie is a lot more bearable, because you'll have some background. LDFZM16H I had seen it on Netflix and was a little intrigued but didn't actually decide to watch it until some friends highly recommended it to me. Muledfox 13H There was real-world promotion for Dark Crystal Age of Resistance in NYC Times Square, during the end of August, beginning of September 2019, right around when the show came out. They've got a fairly active Facebook page, and an Instagram presence, where fans are just waiting for the next announcement that Season 2 has been ordered. Honestly I don't care if Season 2 won't come out for another year or two, so long as I know they're working on it. Lol Nope Nisatri 12H The making of was absolutely wonderful. Nia Blackdragon 16H Puppetry is not obsolete. CGI is not always the best tool for the job. There's this incorrect idea that practical is automatically better, but if your CGI does less than what your practical can do then there's no point to it. When they use a practical model, that model needs to be done. Everyone knows what it's going to look like. What happens with the poor lifeless weightless CGI is no prep is made for the VFX artist. They aren't given the info to simulate the set. The set is set up in a way to deal with the limitations of CGI or help the artists out. Too much is put on the artists with a director who doesn't understand the tech. Let's not pretend there has never been bad puppetry and models. Patica 16H Hey you leave Lazatown out of this damn it. Deeks 15H It's a piece of cake to bake a pretty cake yeah. Awfulita Fossilites 13H If the way is hazy. Bistiat 16H I am old, and personally, there is this nostalgia a puppet brings that a visible CGI effect can't achieve. CGI is great when you don't notice it, but when you do, it breaks the immersion for me. Yellow Pudding 16H Miss the Jim Henson days? Me too, me too. Cheez-It Party Mix 14H Jim Henson is Star Wars in case you didn't know. Theka Kester 15H I rewatched Star Wars Episode 1. It never used to be so obvious, but that's probably because I used to watch it on a CRT TV back in the day and now I'm noticing that everything looks like garbage on my giant 4K TV. It's not that GCI is inherently bad, but as viewing tech improves, the CGI remains the same, which makes it look compatibly bad. I can't imagine what the future holds that will make modern-day GCI look bad. Meridius 5514H Weird. I always thought Episode 1 visuals aged better compared to the other prequels. Sure, organic characters look wonky, but the droid army scenes on Naboo, the pod racing, or the space battles and explosions in general, still look stellar thanks to the miniatures and practical effects. Philip Norris 13H. People say this all the time, but what about when it was in theaters? A film projection at the time it was released would have had enough fidelity to reveal the things you say you only see on a 4K TV versus CRT. No one noticed the bad CGI in the theater then? Waiting Toadazune 11H. It's gonna be a problem with a lot of older films that were filmed on digital only. Most effects are rendered for 2K and filmed in 2K. Some old shows like Buffy the Vampire Slayer had to redo their CGI, but it wasn't done very well when it got remastered to 1080p. Ogscrub 14H. Thinking about the puppets literally breaks the immersion too. The Dark Crystal is in the uncanny valley because you can always tell you're looking at puppets. You can't lose yourself in the story because of how obvious it is. It's the opposite of immersive for me. Wub Shrimp 12H. The obvious puppet moments of Baby Yoda didn't break your immersion? My SECRET. REDDIT10H. Yeah, WTF is going on in this thread? Baby Yoda looks like puppetry to me 100%. Whoever think he looks believable must have grown up watching these kinds of movies. Kill also looks alwell whenever he talks. Practical effect monsters are far better examples because it hey don't talk and we don't have any frame of reference. Granted it's not all black and white. Guillermo del Toro does it great. Nilts 15H. CGI must be so cheap nowadays that making puppets cost way more. Or making puppets is really expensive. Maybe a bit of both. 9 Mervis 14H. Or a lack of control. There are no bounds with CGI, no restrictions. With a puppet, the puppeteer can say this puppet can't do this. I think directors are scared of the latter. Agard less Pumpkin 14H. It makes everything easier on the production. We'll fix it in post is usually the answer. The EP and everyone else get the shots they need on schedule, then outsource the CGI to a company who needs to turn in their work by a certain date. If things go wrong, you just blame the CGI people that you've underpaid and overworked. Life of Pi. Sausage Party, etc. Cheesevote just 16H. Can't they just GCI the puppeteers away with modern tech? Instead of having people lay under or behind the puppet or other means to keep them out of the frame? You could probably do more with the puppet itself that way. Jackal 615H. Sure, but it's more work, especially if there is camera movement. Turgadeberny 14H. They did that for a few instances in the Dark Crystal. There's a good making of documentary on Netflix about it. Pretty interesting. Ahecht 13H. They do that quite a bit. For example, BB-8 was done that way in the new Star Wars movies, and -3PO was done that way in The Phantom Menace. Naturalex Gaming 15H. The reason why Lauder will stand the test of time was its use of practical effects. I highly doubt I would love the series as much as I do today if it wasn't for how great the orcs looked. I wish more movies would follow suit. I get that CGI has a place, but some things would look so much better real if they just took the time to do makeup and shit. Dudescus 0115H. I think I am in a small camp that doesn't care either way. A mediocre puppet that I can tell is a puppet is no better than mediocre CGI I can tell is CGI. I'm constantly suspending disbelief. I have no problem doing it for mediocre CGI or puppetry. I do think there is something to be said for those involved with making a film that have a hard time visualizing something that is not there and that can result in subpar results even with excellent CGI. The Dork Knight 116H. Only watched one episode of Dark Crystal. I will watch more, but I was very impressed by the puppetry. It reminded me a lot of Farscape in terms of the dedication. Godfeed of the Ravens 16H. Both Henson Productions. The Dork Knight 116H. I know. It's amazing what magic that studio can do if given the respect. I hope we will see more future productions with puppetry, but I know a lot of people likely don't have the patience for it. Opulent 16H. The puppets in Farscape and Thor in Stargate are great, too. They should use them way more often, especially when the budget is low. Puppets are much better than bad CGI and can be even better than good CGI. Cosmic Bridgeman 14H. Came here looking for a Farscape mention. Anglamang 14H. With animatronics, new content can be produced much faster and cheaper than CGI. Animatronics have actually been making huge advancements. Look for Earth to Ned. It's a new show from Disney Henson with amazing puppeteering and technology. Twat Waffle 15H. Same with real actors instead of CGI. Lauder vs. The Hobbit is a good example of this. Thick Duck 14H. In no other genre are practical effects more needed than horror. Imo. There is absolutely nothing scary about CGI. It leaves no effect. Aurea Savvy 13H. For real. I don't get why everybody ditched practical effects. Look at The Lord of the Rings. It still looks incredible. even when compared to movies that came out over a decade later. Pathfinder 2415H. I feel like people put on kid gloves when reviewing quality of puppets because they don't want to insult the tremendous hard work they take. Realistically though, the puppetry in Dark Crystal was anything but subtle.
If you enjoyed this video, please smash the like button below and subscribe to my channel for future videos. Thanks for watching.